This podcast is brought to you by State Champs. State Champs is running a special giveaway right now for every purchase from statechampsco.com, their online shop, between February 7th and April 7th, enters you to win 2 tickets to She Believes Cup in Columbus, Ohio this April. Be sure to follow along at This Is State Champs to learn more and visit them at statechampsco.com.
Welcome to Across the Pond Women's College Basketball. I'm Stacia Whitaker.
And I'm Aubrey Knight.
All right, so first question of the day. Have you ever squealed when you've met one of your basketball heroes?
I have not. I have never squealed.
If you guys missed it over this weekend, this is the greatest squeal I've heard in a long time because everybody's a fan of somebody else. So even though the day was all about Caitlin Clark on Sunday, being able to break Pete Maravich's all-time large school record, she did squeal when she met Maya Moore. And so that was one of those things where it's like everybody's a fan of somebody. And I can tell you that I was talking about the picture behind me of me and Pat Summitt. I brought her that picture and I asked her to autograph it. And she asked me how to spell my name after I said it. And I forgot to spell how I spelled my name for about 2 seconds. I had to think how to spell my name. So that is my equivalent of a squeal. So, no, never squeal, but have you ever gotten speechless meeting a hero?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely got speechless, but never squealed. Never made an external noise. All internal.
Yeah. So would you squeal? Would you squeal if you met Maya Moore? If she just turned a corner and she was there?
Honestly, probably. But I don't know because it hasn't happened yet. So get back to me if that ever happens. I'll let you know if I squealed.
I like that. This nice hopefulness for yet. Right. So starting where we start with the biggest story of the week was Caitlin Clark in Iowa prevailed on Senior Day, which there wasn't really a doubt. I didn't think there was a doubt that they were going to win on Senior Day. It's just the packed house. One of my favorites. Good old, Lynette Woodard from KU was there. Maya Moore was there. They had so many people there watching. Jake from State Farm was just chilling in his Caitlin Clark vest. And she breaks it on a free throw right before the end of the half. And it wasn't super exciting, but it was nice because it was a moment where everybody knew what was happening. And it was like, we're just going to break it in the easiest way possible, where everybody has a chance to cheer. And so, congrats to Caitlin again for another record.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And then she also announced that she's going to be going into the WNBA.
Which,
predicted as the number 1 pick, which is,
predicted.
We all guessed that she was going to do that. She's going to go as the number 1 pick, but they can't really say that yet.
She kind of said it, and they had the clip when Aaliyah Boston was interviewing her. It was like, oh, if Fever could have the number 1 pick, we may be teammates. She said that before the season, or I'm trying to think when that clip was, and they played it. So it was like Caitlin kind of knew for a while, and Carolyn Peck said the only real reason to stay in for your COVID year, if besides developing your game, Caitlin, are trying to do things to get better, would be if you have a chance to win a national championship. And she has her friends, they're seniors, the super seniors, and Kate Martin and Gabby Marshall, and Warnock's gone, Sonano's gone. So they're a little bit younger. And I know Molly Davis is in there as a super senior after she transferred from Central Michigan. But her friends are going to be gone. So there's not much else you can do unless you just want to make every record unattainable for the rest of the world ever. Unless you're the team that played against Lauren Taylor from Francis Marion, where you don't even show up and you just let Lauren Taylor get 44 rebounds, as we talked about last week. That's about the only way that someone would catch her if she stayed for 5 years. But there's nothing else she can really do besides win that national championship. And what else is there to do for this woman besides that?
Yeah, I definitely think it was a good call. Definitely her time. Obviously she is one of the best, if not the best, that's playing right now. And you might as well go out on top, breaking all the records, and then go see what you can do to the WNBA. I think that was the best call. But I agree. If there was, other teammates that were going to be coming back, it might be a little bit of a question to try and win that national title. But, if they don't win it this year, next year is probably not going to be, any different. So,
well, and right now they got to focus on winning a Big Ten tournament title because they are the 2 seed behind Ohio State. So This is a tough one. There's a lot happening. We're literally recording as games are being played currently. Maryland just beat Illinois in Big Ten play, and they'll face Ohio State. And think that is a dangerous game, but with all the teams that are in there, there could be a few upsets here and there. You never know about what Nebraska can do. Michigan beat Ohio State, and I think that Penn State is dangerous if they can shoot well because they took Ohio State to either overtime or double overtime in the early part of the season. So I always think Penn State's kind of dangerous. And who knows on that bottom bracket with Iowa and Indiana. But who do you pick up in Minneapolis to win this Big Ten tournament that is sold out?
It's crazy.
Sold out.
I mean, I don't know. I think it honestly could be anyone's race. Obviously, I mean, Indiana has been playing really well. Ohio State obviously has been playing well. Iowa, I think, Michigan State can be dangerous. I'm going to go with Iowa winning the whole thing just because it's tournament, it's March, and good players really step up their game. And I can't see Caitlin wanting to go out without winning this.
Yep.
So I think Caitlin's going to step up her game, and that whole team's going to step up their game. So I'm going to pick Iowa. I'm going to pick Iowa to win the whole thing.
This is I said this about how I thought that earlier this year that Indiana was going to win, and I think if they didn't drop that game to Illinois, they would have tied with Ohio State. I mean, but you always drop some game. I mean, Iowa lost to Nebraska, but it kind of depends on a couple of things because Iowa, Molly Davis went down with an injury in that Ohio State game, but they've said that she will be back. Maybe not right away, but that she'll be back this season, which is huge. That little headband can score. She was at Central Michigan and scored a lot there, and then went to Iowa, a little bit better competition, and still has the ability to score. And I respect a short girl that goes to the lane and then stops for a little baby jump shot. So I like that headband, but also Indiana had Mackenzie Holmes that went down with a knee injury in their last game of the season. So if Holmes is back and she can be at 90%, I'm going to lean into Indiana just because I did in the early part of the year, even though, which is very crazy because they're going to play Iowa again. And Iowa really doesn't lose to, I mean, this would be like match, game number 3 this year where they've split and each team handled the other one on the home floor. So I'm going to lean into Indiana if Holmes is back and like at an A- or above when it comes to health. And then what?
Well, what if she's not back?
Then I'm going with Iowa. It's going to be, then I'm going to go with Iowa. If she's not back, even if Molly Davis can't play in this tournament, but seemingly will play at least in at least in the NCAA tournament, I'll go with Iowa. But I'm just going to lean into Indiana again. I did early, and so I'm going to go with them. But I'm curious to see if someone can upset Ohio State in that top part of the bracket because I think people think it's going to be smooth sailing for Ohio State getting in. So I don't know either. But yeah, if Holmes is there, Indiana over Ohio State in the final. If Holmes isn't there, Iowa beats Ohio State in the final. Even though I could see some team beating Ohio State on that top side just because no one's really ready for it. And Indiana blew a huge lead against Ohio State last year, so maybe someone can return the favor this year.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. All right. So we're going to move over to my neck of the woods, go into Big 12 action. And the hottest team in the league, and this is not me with my favoritism, is Kansas. They upset Oklahoma on senior day. It was a very proud moment for me to see these seniors go out with a win and have their best home record since the late 90s. Had a great showing with freshman Maya Nichols with a career high, and Holly Kersgeter threw in 26 points. I love how I'm just saying that. Threw in 26 points and won. And they're the 7th seed in the Big 12 tournament. And right now the Big 12 tournament tonight's got 4 teams to play in to go to the next round. And the Big 12 is going to be interesting because there was a lot of teams all hubbed together when it came to the records. And the bracketology has predicted 7 teams right now to be in the tournament. And I really could not tell you who's going to win this thing because there's been a lot of parity. And considering that Oklahoma won the regular season, which still just am surprised by. And also, like, good for you. I'm so happy that you did win against Texas, so didn't have to feel guilty about KU beating you, which I called. Um, but this is going to be an interesting one because uh, Baylor and Iowa State are playing each other. That's been like a history of Iowa State getting Baylor. They're gonna end up playing each other. K State will end up playing West Virginia on the bottom part of that bracket. They went to overtime this year. Texas, they're sitting at a 2 seed, and they got beat. If K State and Texas make it to the semifinals, they've split this year. OU up top, they're not a scary team, despite the fact that they've barely lost. They've only lost 3 games this year. So I could literally tell you that I have no idea who's going to win the Big 12, and that's what makes it exciting. It's way less cut and dry, I think, than other conferences besides, your conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, your conference. We're gonna get there.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. This conference is all over the place. I mean, just like how the regular season was, it was kind of anyone's race. I think I'm gonna give an underdog winning this
Ooh.
conference, just because I feel like the rankings don't necessarily cooperate with how good every team is, right? Like some teams beat certain teams, and I'm gonna give it to Baylor.
Oh, just bad words that you just said. Those are such bad words. No, no, Baylor.
I'm
But
gonna give it to Baylor. I'm gonna do it. For
I I think that Baylor, they play Iowa State. I think that Baylor's gonna beat Iowa State, and then that OU Baylor game can be very fun.
Yeah.
Because Baylor got beat by Iowa State last year when Iowa State took the Big 12 tournament on Ashley Jones's finally getting some kind of conference title on her super senior year. But Baylor versus OU would be a very fun semifinal if they can get past Iowa State, which is always interesting because Iowa State is one of the best. Like Iowa State always has more fans in Kansas City than any other school. Just they're there. They are loud. They let you know that they are there, and they've got some freshmen that are very, very like ready to play, and it's gonna be an interesting one. But I don't knock your choice on that. That could be a thing, but Baylor's been very shaky this season. They started off well, then they dropped, and then they've come back pretty strong. So that's not a bad pick. I would like to see my. I'm gonna lean into Texas, which my
Okay.
friends that which stinks because if KU wins their first game, they would end up playing Texas. It's so hard to say. It's so hard to say. Just like they would end up playing Texas. But Texas had a chance at the Big 12 title and they didn't get it, and they lost it last year in the final. And then they would have to I'm gonna lean into Texas. My Oklahoma friend will not like
They have
that, but I'm gonna
something to
lean.
prove.
Yeah, they have something to prove. They didn't win it outright. They're the highest ranked team in the Big 12, and yet you're not the conference champions.
Yeah.
So it'd be huge for them and their push to possibly get back to the one line. And they're just solid, and they bring it. So it's one of those that I can just see happening. I hope that they get beat out in the second round because because hopefully my team will be there. But I like Texas coming to win as a 2 seed. I can see that happening. So I'm gonna lean into them.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I mean, again, like we said, they have something to prove. Losing, the conference, and then something to prove in the tournament. So I can see that.
I would be.
I'm still going with Baylor.
Yeah. I would be happier if a team that is not leaving the conference would win. So that would take out OU and Texas. I want a team that's going to stay in this conference that's not leaving to the SEC. But that's just a preference. I look forward to my next. I got my Big 12 2022 shirt on. I look forward to getting my T-shirt from this year, and then it just immediately changes next year with the new teams we're going to have in.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's just a revolving door of teams.
Yeah.
So go into your conference as your team is right now in a close game, literally as we're recording this against those Beavers, but it's a neutral site. Here's where I'm leaning into your team. It's because they have not beaten the Beavers this year, and it's hard to beat a team 3 times. So
it is.
Yes. So I want to see on how we can get Colorado over the hump to beat Oregon State, as they're literally up by 3 points as I'm saying this. Yeah, Colorado versus Oregon State, and then you've got the Northern California teams, the Stanford and Cal playing each other, and then Arizona, who's just been like an annoying little sister who's gotten some wins here and there, playing USC. Arizona can upset some teams. They've had some big wins, and then you got the third game between Utah and UCLA, and so who is winning? I'm going to make it difficult right now. If Colorado does not win this tournament, who do you pick? Because we all know who you're going to pick. You have to choose someone that's not Colorado. And I have a feeling that you're not going to pick Stanford because of so much love that you have for them. So if it's not Colorado, who's it going to be? Yeah.
I'll give it to USC. USC has been playing so well on the back end of this season. If I can't pick Colorado, you're forcing me not to pick them. I'm going to pick USC. I think they can beat Arizona. Obviously, Arizona is a tough team. They're going to have to play well for that game. And then UCLA, USC, if UCLA beats Utah, that's also going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
But then from there, they'd go to the tournament championship. I mean, I'm still going to give it to USC, but they're going to have to play well every single game moving forward. You can't. If they're not on top of their game, Arizona and UCLA could both beat them, assuming UCLA beats Utah. But I'm gonna go with USC.
I like that pick because even though Arizona has the ability to upset, they've done that this year a few times. I'm going away from UCLA because they'd have to play Utah, and Utah's beaten them this year. Then they'd have to beat USC, so that's 2 games in a row. So I don't know if they could do 3 games in a row of tough teams to win. So I like Colorado's chances if they get out of this Oregon State game because they've beaten Stanford. And so they mentally know that they can beat Stanford, even though it was at home. But they pulled away at the end. It was one of those strong performances where they finish it off. The only thing I kind of think about with Stanford and Colorado, if it happens, is that Stanford will want revenge. And so that will be very tough. It's tough to beat. I mean, it'd be the second time they play this year. But if Oregon State can beat your Buffs and they play Stanford, I would say Oregon State would beat Stanford because they've lost to them twice this year. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. But we're going to go on this, even though it's only a 3-point game, and say your Buffs beat the Beavers. That's a very weird phrasing. The Buffs beat the Beavers. They are going to win. Just do that. Just put it up. They do that. Say it again.
I said, just put it in the universe.
Just put it in the universe. Colorado wins. Someone has told me that before. It happened in 2008 with Kansas men and Tennessee women when they both won the national championship. I literally was cussing at the TV and they pulled it out. So maybe I just need to cuss at this. I can't say it on here because we are very PG-13. But yes. I mean, I'm mentally cussing for Colorado to pull this game out against Oregon State. I will go on this with you. But if Colorado beats Oregon State, I'm gonna pick them over Stanford for some reason.
That's what I like to do.
Yeah, but I like USC coming out of that because I feel like USC will have an easier time with Arizona, and then you have game number 3 against UCLA, and USC's playing well. So if it ends up being USC Colorado in the final, I'll give it to your Buffs, but I can also see Stanford USC, and so I'll lean towards Stanford on that one because Stanford would get back the game against Juju for scoring 51. So I'm gonna actually put it out in the universe about them beating the Beavers, but I'm just gonna go with what I do. I'm gonna go with Stanford winning this thing. If your Buffs can't do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. I feel like that's pretty diplomatic.
I can accept that.
Yeah, because if I would really like it if Tara could win just all the Pac championships this year and the year that they the Pac dissolves, because Tara is the Pac. Yeah. All right, so we've got the bigs. We got 10 and 12. Then we got the Pac. We're going from West Coast to the southern part of the country in the SEC. I can just say it. South Carolina's gonna win this thing.
Yes, they are.
They are. If Tennessee can win their game today and they end up playing South Carolina, they've played them tough twice.
Well, Tennessee just won.
They did just win. See, this is so much fun about doing a show when people are actually playing, because it's like, are they still in? Because I don't want to say that and then not doing that. But Tennessee still has one more game to win to get to South Carolina, because they're the 5 seed. So they've played them twice in close games. So I could see Tennessee getting an upset over South Carolina, but I don't think they will. I could see it if they get there, but they're going to be tired from 3 days in a row of games, and that's where playing
Yeah.
all these consecutive games will wear them down. All right, so here's the fun question. Who does South Carolina beat in this final? Are we saying that the Bayou Tigers, I want to say Bayou Bengals, those women from the Bayou, are they going to be there or not?
I don't know, because Ole Miss is dangerous.
Yes.
But also I think LSU again has something to prove.
Well, and
I think Ole Miss is dangerous, but I think LSU is gonna pull it out. I think it's gonna be LSU versus South Carolina. As much as I don't necessarily want it to be, because I want there to be an upset, I have a feeling that LSU and South Carolina are gonna be the final game.
well, it would be very good to do that, because then LSU would get a chance to try to beat South Carolina in their home state, because it is the SEC tournament is in South Carolina, even though it's not, hosted by South Carolina. But
Yeah.
here's a nice little fun one is, can Auburn pull off a win against LSU if they beat Arkansas tonight? That is, they lost to them by 5 earlier this year. So and they beat them by 5 earlier this year. So can Auburn upset LSU in LSU's first game if they beat Arkansas tonight? You know that it can happen, but will it happen?
I think that it can happen, but I don't think it'll happen. I don't think LSU will let that happen. I think teams play at a different caliber in March. Not saying that Auburn isn't going to, but I think LSU just has the experience, especially from last year. I don't see it actually happening.
And this is the other thing, is Tennessee upset LSU last year in the semifinals. And so that was LSU's last loss. So that catapulted them to winning all the close games, because they had so many close games in the tournament. I mean,
Yeah.
Utah had a chance at them. Miami had a chance at them. Virginia Tech had a lead going into the fourth quarter. And then LSU plays their best game of the year against Iowa. So that could be interesting. Vanderbilt's a 6 seed. They have played very well and done surprisingly well this year under Shea Ralph. So Vanderbilt's one that could get Ole Miss and go, but I don't see the Commodores going farther than that.
Yeah.
If they do get the win over the 3 seed, but Vandy this year, Shea Ralph, former UConn national champion, has done well with them. So it'd be very interesting to see if Vanderbilt can get like another win to add to their NCAA tournament resume. So, but I mean, I agree. I think it's gonna be South Carolina LSU in the final, and Don's ready. Don's ready.
100%.
Yeah, and I mean, Don versus Kim. If that goes to the tournament final, it'd be you got two very strong-headed point guards going at each other again, and the past 2 national champion coaches. So always a good battle in the SEC. But I see South Carolina LSU. It's so basic. It's so basic. I hope it doesn't end up that way. I think it would be amazing if neither of them were in the final, and then people would be like, "What happened?" Like, who knows? But I see it. It just feels like it's going to end that way, and then I'm going to choose South Carolina. They don't lose in their home state. They just don't.
I agree. I don't think South Carolina's going to lose.
All right. Going to the last conference, and we had a nice little game already today in the ACC tournament. Oh my goodness. Speaking of how Miami should have gotten LSU, or could have gotten LSU last year. I can't say should. Could have gotten LSU last year. Miami pulled off a win today against North Carolina, 60-59 in this round at the ACC tournament. And the ACC tournament, I have no idea who's going to win this thing. That's about the best way to say it. I have no idea who's going to win this thing. Got nothing.
I
I
I have no idea either. This conference is the craziest conference for me this year.
Well, despite the fact that Virginia Tech won it outright, which I was not ready for, I was really thinking that there were going to be more conferences with co-champs, and there weren't in the Power Five. Like that, that to me was kind of surprising. But Miami beats North Carolina, and so they're going to play Virginia Tech. And Miami's an Elite Eight team from last year. Surprised a
Yeah.
lot of people. And so, they're coming back. But the interesting thing with Virginia Tech is they lost their last two games of the season. And Liz Kitley went down with an injury against Virginia. Still don't know her status, even though she walked back and then sat on the bench. So she had 20 points and 9 rebounds at that point when she went out in the third quarter. And then Amor was like, I'm going to try to win this for us, and had 39 points because that muscle nugget does not want to lose. It's forever her nickname. But they did. And Virginia Tech, if their season just depends on if Kitley's back or not. That's just it. They can do some things, but if Kitley's not back, they're going to be out in the Sweet 16. That's kind of how I feel. And they may win their first game in the ACC tournament, but I think they'd be out after that. So, Liz Kitley, that would be a loss. But I don't have Virginia Tech, even if Kitley's back. I don't have Virginia Tech winning this thing. I have Notre Dame winning it because they're playing as good as anybody right now. I do. Yeah. Hidalgo is little Mighty Mouse that is going through everybody. And Westfeld's playing really well. And just team-wise, they're playing well. So I think Notre Dame's going to win the ACC tournament and catapult themselves into hosting when it comes to first and second rounds.
Okay.
What do you got for ACC?
I'm gonna go Miami.
Ooh, that is a pick.
They just won a 1-point game. They surprised everyone last year in the tournament. See if they can do it again. I don't know. They're a good team, very athletic. So I wouldn't be surprised if they can pull something out. And I want to go for an underdog in one of these conferences.
Gotcha. If Notre Dame does not win this, there's a very interesting bottom half of the conference, because if Duke wins tonight, then they would play NC State. Duke has, I don't think they're on like a big roller coaster. They just got like tiny little peaks and valleys where they show everything that they can do and get a big win and upset someone, and then they don't perform again. The consistency isn't there yet. So that Duke NC State game, if it happens, could be very interesting. And then Florida State and Syracuse, if that happens, it could be interesting because that's a lot of scorers on the floor. But Florida State's one that can upset people because Latson can do so much. And then someone we didn't talk about possibly being an ACC Player of the Year, because we talked about Hidalgo versus Kitley. Deja Fair, who is moving up on the scoring chart, who we did talk about. She's another potential Player of the Year. So I'm going to go with Syracuse versus Notre Dame in this final.
Okay.
So it's not complete underdogs, but it's 3 versus 4. I like the idea of not what's expected, and could be a very interesting. And then of course both of them could sneak into that top 16 to host, and that would not be fun, because if you have the guards that are handling the ball, that would be very, very important come tournament time, to have less turnovers. And
absolutely.
And that's why I think Notre Dame is so dangerous, because Hidalgo is a little, I just called her a Mighty Mouse. She's also a dog, because you lead the country in steals. It's, watch out, girl. Yeah, she's going to come at you, and that's dangerous for any team. But yeah, I'm going to go Notre Dame, Syracuse in that final, and then Notre Dame. Yeah. So that's fun. Fun little ACC picks. I love how we're going to talk next week, and it's going to be how wrong were we? Because
I know, and I know we're going to be surprised.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. The surprises are the best. And there was one week where everything I said did not happen, except for like a few things. So I'm happy that Kansas has come through for me. So good job, ladies.
Yes.
But Well, one of the most interesting things that happened this year was of a team that we mentioned on their awesome 24-game win streak, and that is Fairfield. These women are so interesting to me, and I told you this today. They put up on X, formerly Twitter, a message to the NCAA or to the AP and to the AP, and this is what they said in this message. They said, "Dear at AP and at USA Today, we would like to apply for a position in your top 25 rankings. We would add a 26-1 record and a 24-game winning streak into your group, both second in the country. It's behind South Carolina. Attached is our resume. We look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, hashtag rank the Stags." They did this right before the rankings came out. They have a number 25 ranking now in the country, and they literally have a resume, and it is just one of the funniest things I've heard. And someone replied back, "Thanks for your inquiry. I'm happy to offer you the number 25 position this week." So go Fairfield. Way to literally be like, stop overlooking us. And I have overlooked them because I don't think any teams out of the Power Five, or really besides UConn, are going to make the Sweet 16. But
Yeah.
go Fairfield for putting yourselves out there and just telling everybody, "Hey, don't underestimate us."
Yeah, they're advocating for themselves. They said they have the record to deserve to be up in that top 25, and they reached out, and now they're number 25, and they also were named the NCAA like women's basketball team of the week, which I thought was pretty cool too. It's just to show that putting that out there, showing that you guys are a good team. Now you're ranked, so now you just got to prove it, right? Prove it in the tournament.
It's
Try and
it's
stay
it's
up
gonna,
there.
it's going to be interesting to see where they land in a tournament, because
Yeah,
people may not know too much about them, and if they end up getting like a 6 or a 7 seed, if they got a 6 seed and they played a 3 seed, that could be one of those that could do some damage. Um,
absolutely.
and so they are undefeated in conference in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference in the MAC, and they're just killing it with their 26-1 record. The only team that's got a better winning streak is South Carolina, and so good job on Fairfield. And I love how you said the word advocate for themselves, because it's like, what's up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so we have Fairfield. So this is going to be interesting to see where they're going to sit in the tournament when the bracket comes out, because they're definitely in. The other teams outside of the Power Five, we have UNLV, and UNLV has been owning it this year. They've been ranked a couple times, 17-1 in the Mountain West Conference, and they beat their last two games. They won 100-41 and 104-44. That's just okay.
Demolished.
Yeah, just demolishing everybody. So they've got a quarterfinal coming up next week. So I think that UNLV would be one to keep an eye on, because they've got some interesting stats as a team. They're putting up 80 points a game, and so they're just another team of these mid majors that could do some damage. You never know.
Absolutely.
All right. Other ones of our mid majors before we get to the other non-Power 5 team that probably do the most damage in the NCAA tournament. Someone in their conference in the Big East, Creighton. 2 years ago, Creighton shocked everybody by beating Iowa at home, with one of their former players hitting the dagger to beat Iowa, and then beat the other Iowa team, Iowa State, in the Sweet 16, to then just get demolished by South Carolina.
Yes.
Yes.
Fun
Who
fact,
cares?
I played Creighton in the first round of that NCAA tournament.
That's right. Oh my gosh. It's coming full circle. I'm so sorry. My condolences.
Oh, that's okay. We
Yeah.
did not play well at all, but that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, well, and then the fact, this is where the NCAA always seems to do things again, where if you guys would have beat Creighton, you would have played Iowa, and then the next year Colorado played Iowa. Yeah,
Yep.
and they always like to repeat things just to get a little bit of drama.
Yep.
Because in Charlie Cream's bracketology, he has Stanford and Texas in like the same region again. And I'm like, stop it. It'd be like 3 years in a row where they do that if it happens. And it's like, just spread it out. But Creighton is sitting there. They're always tough. They are second to UConn in the Big East, 24-4, 15-3. They've been ranked on and off this year. They're ranked 21st. So you have personal experience with Creighton.
Yes.
What is dangerous about Creighton?
They can shoot the ball. They can shoot the ball very well. They also have really good defense, and they honestly just play as a team. We were not expecting them to come out because we were significantly taller than them, and they came out and it didn't matter. They played fearlessly, and I think that's what they did for that tournament. When they beat Iowa, they made it to the Elite Eight. No one expected them to be there. They were the underdogs that people just overlooked. And they're dangerous. And they have the experience, right?
Yep.
They went to the tournament last year, and they went to the Elite Eight the year before that. So
it's always interesting whenever you have someone that's just right there that could do some stuff. They also talked about Princeton being able to do stuff, and them in Columbia, like are right in there for the Ivies. And Princeton's been one that's been dangerous lately, in and out of the rankings. But the other team that would be very interesting out of the Mountain West, we already talked about the Mountain West, that's UNLV, the West Coast Conference, is Gonzaga, who is always dangerous. They're 29-2. They lost to Washington State in overtime, and the only other loss they have is Louisville. And then they just beat the crap out of Stanford, even though Brink did have an illness and sat out. Didn't matter. They demolished Stanford in the early part of the year. Gonzaga, last NCAA reveal, I believe they were hosting. So go to Gonzaga. That's another team out west that, you know, they made it to the Elite Eight a long time ago with Sloot. And so they've had a history of success. So Gonzaga, 29-2. Your last losses were last year. They were like in November. So so they don't have as long of a winning streak as Fairfield, but they're third in winning streaks behind South Carolina, Fairfield, and then Gonzaga. What is the danger of playing a team that just hasn't, like, they don't even remember how to lose? Like,
yeah, and they also have a 14-0 record at home. So if they do host, they haven't lost at home this year. So that is dangerous. And Gonzaga is one of the teams that I could see sneaking into the Sweet 16, Elite Eight. I mean, they have a great coaching staff, and they always have a good team. They know how to get their players far in the tournament. And just in general, they know how to win. So I think people need to look out for Gonzaga coming into this tournament.
Well, and besides South Carolina, who's the only guaranteed 1 seed, no matter what happens in this SEC tournament, even with like Iowa and Ohio State, like flipping, around for those, the 1 seeds, and their, the rankings are in like top 4, and Stanford's up there. I feel like any 1 seed, if you get a 4 or 5 seed and you get to that Sweet 16 game on a neutral site with a 1 seed, especially if Gonzaga gets Portland in their 4 or 5 seed. I mean, because the committee should put them in Portland. They should, just because they always want to get more money for people going to the game. So if Gonzaga doesn't get a Portland regional, that's just wrong to send them all the way across country. As long as and it won't be South Carolina, never mind. Gonzaga's not going to get South Carolina because South Carolina's going to Albany. If they're a 4 or 5 seed, and they go to Portland, any of those 1 seeds, that is dangerous because they're not at home, but they would be the closest to the home. Besides, if Oregon State gets a Portland region and gets to go to and make it to the Sweet 16, so that's another aspect that is just so interesting with this Gonzaga team.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Gonzaga is a team to look out for, and if they do get that Portland, I also know Gonzaga has a huge fan base. They almost pack out all their games at their stadium. So if they get that Portland region, it's going to be filled with Gonzaga fans, which is a huge advantage for them.
I mean, and I, went on record saying that besides UConn, I didn't think any other schools out of the Power 5 were going to be in the Sweet 16. So, I mean, this is just going to slap me in the face.
I think it is.
You think it is? Just say it.
I think Gonzaga is going to be there.
This is where you just reach through the computer and just smack me in the face to be like, it's going to happen. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Not going to do that? Okay. Because I'm like, your 6'1" wingspan could really just smack anything out of my 5'4" like body. Just boom, just right through. So lastly, non-Power 5 school that is going to be in there that will get an Albany region, we know this is true, is UConn. And I'm still waiting to hear about Aaliyah Edwards staying for her super senior year, which I think she will do. Just because Paige is going to be there, and we're going to see if Azie's going to come back after her like 30th knee injury, high school and then college. It'd be nice to have that kid healthy. Her shooting is so beautiful to watch, and like what a rough go for her. But UConn is going to be playing in Albany, so all the UConn fans are going to go there. And I think right now they're sitting at like 3 seed, and so as long as they're not playing South Carolina, it could be another year where UConn makes it. And Lobo keeps saying it, which I understand because we talk about our teams all the time. Like, watch out for UConn. And that's a team that lost early part of the year and hasn't lost since, but also their conference isn't as strong as others. So what is dangerous about UConn?
I mean, UConn's always a danger. I don't think anyone ever underestimates UConn. They have always been known. We've all known that they're basically a Power 5 team without being in a Power 5 conference. So, I mean, with Paige, obviously, and just that team that they have, Gino, UConn, I think UConn and Gonzaga are going to be the only teams that are not in the Power 5 that are in the Sweet 16. I can't see UConn not being there. Again, unless they get South Carolina, but I don't think that'll happen.
Now I just want to see Fairfield make the Sweet 16 for some reason. Just because
I hope they do. I really hope that they do. I just don't think they've gone against the competition that it's going to be at the tournament.
Well, it would just be interesting after you make a post and then if you made it to the Sweet 16, then that'd be one of those where you could just put like middle finger to the air.
Yes.
Do
absolutely.
that. That'd be great. So I guess I'm leaning more into these underdogs than I originally thought, but I still will wait to see that bracket comes out. All right. Are you currently checking to see your team up by 6 with 6 minutes left?
50-44. I know. I've been watching as the score has been changing.
This is very fun. We have our picks out there. They will not come true. Our picks are not going to come true. If they do, then we're going to go buy lottery tickets right after. If they do, that will be the new plan. But yeah, that's our picks. We're going to see how these mid-major teams do. See if UConn can get back to the Final Four after they win their conference tournament. If they do, see if there's going to be anybody upset in South Carolina in the SEC. That could be fun.
Yeah.
And see if we get round 3 of Ohio State and Iowa. Who knows? And like I said, Pac-12, Big 12, those 12s really have no idea. Same thing with the ACC. Who knows? Yeah. Feel pretty confident in the Big 10 and the SEC. That's where my confidence will lie. I
agree.
I as much as I just like my Indiana, I feel like most likely it's going to be Ohio State and Iowa. So we'll see what happens. And South Carolina definitely winning that SEC. And everything else, who knows? Who knows? Yes, that's what makes this fun.
These live stats, and we are only up by 1. So
you have to pay attention to this. This is getting nerve-wracking.
This is terrifying.
I'm gonna give you either take a breath in about like 15 minutes. Like you can take a breath now, or condolences text is what's gonna happen.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Gosh, this is so much fun. You are so nervous. It's so great.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, it's also not. But come on now. They've beaten them twice this year. They can't beat them a third time.
No, come on. Can't. I mean, we're going to win, but I just need to see this actually happen. And if it doesn't happen,
I'm really willing it into the universe. Come on. Let's go see you. Let's go Buffs.
No,
come on.
Buffs.
A Buffalo can take down a Beaver. Come on now.
Yes. Any day.
Any day. All right. Well, like I said, we'll see if anything actually comes true. Most likely it won't, but it's always fun just to make all these guesses, and we'll be back next week just to evaluate how wrong we were. That's about it. All right.
Yeah.
Everybody enjoy all of the games that you get to see in the next week, and then you're just going to have that breath that you get to take, and then we're going to be right back in it with a lot of coverage coming up here. It is March. So the craziness is going to begin. Let the madness begin. The women are involved in the madness, and we're excited to be a part of it. All right,
absolutely.
All right, for Across the Pond Women's College Basketball, I'm Stacia Whitaker.
And I'm Aubrey Knight.
All right, till next time, guys.
Bye.